Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today in Spill the Sea we are with international Pokemon TCG player, top 8 in the Worlds 2024, finalist in the last Louisville regional. Today we are with Michael Davidson. Hello Michael, we are very
Hi.
enthusiastic by having you today in this episode. So we have 10 questions that our follow asked to us, and let's begin. So who is Michael Davidson and how did you start in PTCG?
I learned how to play a little bit before COVID. I was going to like some league cups and I was planning on going to a few regionals, but I had never gone to one. And then during COVID, I played in a lot of online tournaments, and I think I played like 700 games of Mew VMAX, and
Okay.
that just like taught me how to sequence better and just made me a better player overall. And then my first regional was Indianapolis 2022.
Okay. Um, so how old are you? What are you doing for life?
I'm 17, so I'm still in high school, which I think is
Nice.
colegio.
Yes.
Um, and I want to study data science in college.
Nice, nice. And talking about wars, in Honolulu, you made top 8. How was it for you?
So it was my first top 8 in Masters, so it meant a lot to me. It was really a lot of prizing, and it was a really like memorable achievement, and it meant a lot, and it's something that a lot of people want to achieve. So I was definitely really happy to get there. It was my first season in Masters, and I really wanted to get at least one top cut. So if I was only going to get one, I would most want it to be in the World Championships for sure.
Okay, nice. And we know that Pokemon is constantly changing. And tell us about how did you predict the meta in Louisville, and why did you choose Lostbox?
So we knew that with the increase in Raging Bull and some other matchups that Regidrago would go down. And a lot of those matchups were at least like favored or 50-50 for Lostbox. So me, Andrew Hedrick, and some other members of our testing group, we analyzed the meta, we did our spreadsheet, and we saw that Lostbox with Spiritomb was at least like favored into almost every deck except Regidrago, of course, which is a terrible matchup, but almost every other matchup was positive for us. So we were pretty confident going into the tournament, and we thought like as long as we don't hit more than one Drago, a lot of us will do well.
So everyone in your team choose Lostbox.
So our team is like split into a few groups, but it was like both groups, I think, for this event decided that Lostbox was the play, even though we didn't really work together on it.
Okay, okay. And in terms of sequencing, Lostbox sometimes is kinda difficult. How do you choose the order for Pokestop, Greninja, Comfey, and other searches?
Um, so for searches, I'll start with that. Poffins, you almost always want to play them at the very beginning of your turn. You don't really want to draw into the cards that you can get off Buddy Poffin. Nest balls are a little bit different because you only have, I mean, both you only have 4, but nest balls you kind of need throughout the game. So a lot of the times I'll hold my nest balls to see if maybe I'll draw into the Pokemon naturally and not have to search for it. In terms of the sequencing of the way I draw cards, I almost always like to start with concealed and then like Greninja's ability and then Pokestop. It's really close, like it's very small percentage difference in which is correct. But it's almost always one of those two, which are blind draws with no decisions to be made. Because you're just drawing the top cards of your deck and seeing what you get. It's almost always one of those two first, and I usually like to start with Ninja, especially if I have extra energies in my hand. If, for example, I only have one energy in my hand and I want to attach it that turn for one of my attacks, I'll definitely consider Pokestopping first. And if I have like excess energies, I'll usually like to conceal first, but it's really close. So either way, I would always start with either concealed cards or Pokestop if you have the option to. And then I think this is pretty agreed upon that you play Colress before Comfey.
Okay.
I think most people agree with that, and I'm pretty in agreement with that because you just see way more cards, you have way more of a knowledgeable decision when you play colors first, and that kind of sets up your turn to see what decisions you need to make off comfey. One interesting thing is when you play Pokegear, if you're relying on Pokegear to find a chorus, sometimes you want to do extra comfeys, but you have to make sure you don't overextend resources that you need, even if you do find the chorus, that it's unlikely that you actually get the attack. And sometimes you just have to commit to the gear and kind of hope, even though I don't think my Pokegears hit very much this weekend, and I had a really unfortunate in game 2 where I just couldn't draw anything, but I drew a gear, but I unfortunately did not draw any of my choruses. But I still think the card is probably worth playing, but it's a little bit difficult to sequence.
Okay, no problem. We will talking about your match in the final, but now we can talk about your deck. You choose going without manaphy and thorns, but you include spiritum. How it was?
So spiritum, I actually got quite a few uses out of it. It's really good. It was really good in my later runs in the tournament, but it was also good pretty early on because it's very strong in the Dragapult matchup. And we knew Dragapult was going to be a popular deck in day 1. It just did really well in the most recent regional. With it, I think that was the first time Dragapult ever won an event. So we knew it was going to be popular. Their deck is very reliant on Rotom. So if you're able to go first and get Spiritomb down, you like cripple their draw. They need to find so much. They also really want to use Lumineon throughout the game. So in order to use Lumineon, they'll have to kill the Spiritomb, and then you also can't re-bench it. So it just makes it way more difficult for them to actually disrupt you, which if you can play a whole game without disruption, your matchups are really good into almost anything. Okay. Manaphy, we didn't really consider it because even in the Regidrago matchup, it's still like very unfavored. Like if Regidrago is maybe like 90% favored into you, maybe it's only 80% with Manaphy, but Manaphy is like a dead card in a lot of matchups, especially because decks like Palkia, they can just Dusknoir kill the Manaphy and then it doesn't even matter as much. So for the most part, we didn't think Manaphy would end up being that useful.
Okay, will you consider to have Manaphy in your deck if Regidrago becomes more popular for LAIC or not?
It's really hard to say because once again, like I don't think that Manaphy like fixes the Regidrago matchup. It definitely makes it closer because you can play choruses, you force them to find Cologne if they want to make certain plays. But without a real way to deal with Regidragos, it's just like very difficult. And Manaphy would help, but I don't think it swings the matchup enough to justify playing the card overall.
Okay, and you start this new season very good. How was the experience in Louisville?
I was definitely very happy. This was my 4th day 2 in a row, so I'm enjoying the consistency that I feel like I'm playing with right now. I was really happy to go 4-0 in day 2 as well, which I started 6-1-1 in day 1, which is better than going in at 6-2 because then I could actually make top cut, but I wasn't really expecting to actually make top 8. But I hit some good matchups in day 2, so definitely had a very positive experience in Louisville, and I really hope that I can keep moving that momentum. And hopefully I'm aiming for the travel award to UIC, and currently I'm ranked number 3 in North America, so I really hope that I can keep up those performances.
Okay, I see. And how were your matches going ahead to the final?
In like my games in top cut?
Yes.
Okay. So in top 8 I versed Kieran Farah, who just got 2nd at Baltimore. I think he was playing the same Lugia list that he used to get 2nd, so definitely very experienced with his deck. Game 1, my Spiritomb was very important, and it meant that he was basically not able to disrupt me almost the entire game, and he also was forced to only Summoning Star for 1 Archeops. So that was really good. He never could his board with energies or attackers, So I was able to force it, the game state, to go to a point where I have 1 prize left. He has 2, but his only attacker powered up is Ursaluna, and he just attacked with Ursaluna. So off my Roxanne, he would have to find Jet Energy, a Pokemon to attach to Jet Energy to, and he would have to find a raw boss because he can't use Lumineon because of Spiritomb. So it was basically impossible for him to win that game. Game 2, I had a really slow start. He set up almost perfectly going first, so he just kind of overran me off the board. And then game 3, Spiritomb was really annoying for him once again. He was only able to get 1 Lugia down, and I was able to get the turn 2 double Mirage Gate Prime Catcher Ampy very much to kill his only Lugia V, and then I had Boss to kill his Squawk ability with the same Iron Hands on the next turn. So he didn't really get to play that game, but that was kind of one of the main reasons why Spiritomb was in the deck for us. And then in top 4, I versed Charizard. I versed Sebastian Lashmet, who got 2nd in Worlds as a senior. That was actually my 3rd time playing him in Top Cut, because I played him in Top Cut of Worlds 22, and I also played him in Top Cut of Charlotte Regionals when we were both still in seniors. And he actually beat me both those times, so I was pretty happy to win this time. Game 1, I was able to use Radiant Greninja I was able to use Moonlight Shuriken on my first turn, getting the 7 in the Lost Zone, which I think was the only time that I got to turn 1 Mirage Gate the whole tournament, but definitely a great time to do it. And then he was never really able to establish a great board that game, and I just won the prize trade. Game 2, I once again had a slow start, just like in top 8. He set up really well, and the game was almost unwinnable from a really early point. I played it out just because there's no reason for me to not use as much time as possible, especially because our game 1 went pretty quick. So I played out that game, and then I ended up losing that one. And then game 2, I had a pretty strong start. I used Ninja to kill 2 Charmanders, but he was able to make a Thornton play, I believe, and get a 3rd one. But I was able to keep up in the prize trade, get super far ahead. Oh, sorry, actually, I don't think he had Thornton play into Pidgeot, but he didn't have Thornton into a Charizard. So I was able to get pretty far ahead in the prize race. And by the time that time was called, I was up. I had taken 5 prizes and he had only taken 2. So since I was at 1 prize, he could never use Briar, and it was impossible for him to win based on the time rules, because the player with more prizes remaining it loses based on the tiebreaker system. I also had the game on my last turn of time. I had a Sableye knockout, but I could also just pass because he couldn't even up the prize trade with me. So that's how I won game 3, and then I got to finals after.
Nice. What about game 3 in final? Did you realize that your opponent was weak or not?
Yeah, I think I made I actually know that I made a very poor play. I think I was a little bit tilted, or like a little bit upset from how my last game went, and I think I was kind of in my head, and I made a really big overcommitment of resources to use Radiant Greninja's attack. I could have just used Cramorant to either knock out the active and then set up a 1 prize board into using Prime Catcher Amphi very much for my last 3 prizes, or I could have Cramorant attack the Pheasantipity, and it probably takes away a lot of resources and force him to find a lot. So either way, either attacking with Cramorant is almost always better than the play that I went with, but it was also really difficult game for me because I never ended up playing a Colress, which just makes it so difficult to have all the resources that I need in hand. So I think I made some poor plays, but I also don't think I drew the best, which kind of forced me into much more difficult lines to find. And because I couldn't find the lines in time, I ended up making a bad play, which I'm pretty disappointed with, but I'm so happy I was able to get to finals. And if I'm going to make a bad play, I would rather make the bad play in finals than in a different stage of the tournament and not get to finals.
Yeah, I see. So let's talk about your team. What it's like to be in DDG in terms of testing, deck building, friendship, and so on?
Yeah, I really like the experience that I have with DDG and the way that our testing group functions. So not everyone on DDG is in our testing group. There's kind of a split, like I was saying. Some people test with Hunter Butler, Bodie Robinson. They kind of have their own testing group. But our testing group includes like me, Andrew Hedrick, Gabriel Smart, Caleb Rogerson, some seniors, and Andrew Gantner. So we're kind of one big testing group. Most of us played Lostbox to this event. I think only Gabriel Smart played a different deck. He played Terapagos and he made top 8. So definitely still a good pick from him. But the rest of us all played Lostbox. A lot of them hit way more Regidragos than I did. So that kind of cut their tournament runs short. Andrew Hedrick hit 2 in day 1. And he also had some unfortunate draws versus Lugia. And everyone else also hit. Caleb Rogerson, he also made day 2, but he hit 2 Regidragos throughout the tournament. So basically having 2 losses at Louisville, since it was so competitive, two losses meant you couldn't make cut. So that was a little bit unfortunate for him. And but in terms of like friendship, it's really enjoyable. We're all pretty close, and it definitely has like having those connections has definitely improved my deck list, because the last event, since we've all been playing the same deck, they've been going way better for me than before, when I was kind of just like working with people, testing with people, but we weren't committed to working as a group to play the same deck list. And I don't think the lists I was playing were anywhere near as good as they are now.
Okay, and who's the deck builder of DDG?
It's mostly Andrew Hedrick. He kind of makes all the ideas. He made the list for NAIC that he ended up winning with. Indianapolis Regionals, he made the Dialga deck list that I made top 32 with, and he won the regional with. And then he kind of got us all back on the Lostbox train. Like he got us all again for this event, and we all worked on the list, but it was definitely his idea to push us into playing the deck for sure.
Nice. Do you have any goals for this season? Maybe win a regional or IC?
I would love to win an event, and I guess it's more possible now that I got so close. But I think my main goal, I would like to top 8 one of the ICs, and hopefully get at
maybe
least
top 4, no?
Maybe top 4, yeah, maybe top 4. But I would also like to get another at least one more regional top 8 as well.
Okay, nice. By now, which will the top 5 decks in Stellar Crown?
I think it will be Raging Bolt, Charizard, Regidrago, Terapagos, and the last. I think those are a pretty clear top 4. The last slot could maybe be Dragapult, Palkia, maybe Lostbox if a lot of people play it, but probably not Lostbox. But probably Dragapult or Palkia as the 5th deck.
Nice. And just for finish, do you have any recommendation for improving the game?
Yeah, the best way, honestly, is just to play as much as you possibly can. Everyone in our testing group tries to play just play on the PTCG Live ladder as much as possible. Obviously, testing with your testing group is very good, but in terms of efficiency of games, if you can just play the ladder as much as possible, that's a really good way to improve. And then also, if you can play in some online tournaments on Play.Limitless, that's also a pretty good resource as well. But my biggest recommendation is honestly just play the ladder as much as possible, and try to settle between 1 or 2 decks like within 2 weeks of the tournament. I wouldn't want to be like considering like 4 or 5 decks going, like knowing that I have a tournament in 2 weeks.
Okay, nice. So this is Michael Davidson. Thank you for having you today, and maybe next time we will have an interview for you by winning an IC or maybe a regional. Okay,
Thank
nice.
you.
Bye.